thanks everybody for coming out tonight. My first slide's actually not timed, so if you set it up and then I'll ask you to advance. Yeah. So what I want to talk to you about this evening is this issue, the question really, can mining foster sustainable development? It's a key issue and question in my research, and I have a professional interest in it too, because I've worked as a CSR practitioner in the field for a number of years. But I think more importantly, I have a deep personal connection to it. My great-grandfather was an underground miner, and the money that he earned allowed him to send his 6 children, including the 4 girls, to university. That's my grandma on the right. She was a math whiz and spoke Latin. And this is her youngest sister, who went on to do a master's degree at Columbia University, and then went to work in Beirut before the war. But that was in the days when mining and communities were very closely linked. And that's not really the case anymore, because much of mining today is undertaken by global multinational companies that lack a close connection to the communities in which they operate. And as Efe mentioned, mining today is mostly known for its negative impacts on people, on the environment, and on human rights. Now, this persists despite a vast array of tools, voluntary codes of conduct, and reporting protocols to help companies do a more responsible job, and the efforts on the part of at least some companies to act in a more accountable manner. So, when we start looking at mining, I wondered about this issue of mining community conflict, social risk and social responsibility. And I discovered that this kind of conflict is increasing in countries all around the world. In Peru, where this picture was taken, but also in countries like Canada and Australia, where we wouldn't necessarily think they're high-risk jurisdictions. So the next part of the research was to look at what are the drivers of conflict? What's creating these situations? And I think it's fair to say the research suggests those causes are complex and interwoven. But I think it represents a dissatisfaction with the current model of resource extraction, one that's failed to deliver long-term sustainable benefits to communities that host mining operations. And conflict is costly. It's not just costly for companies, as this graphic shows, but it's also costly for communities that are losing out on opportunities to collaborate to address what we academics like to call the wicked problems or the grand challenges of sustainability. So what can or should mining companies do differently? Well, I think that there's a tremendous opportunity presented in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. There's no question mining has made a contribution to the problems that the SDGs, as we like to call them, seeks to address. But mining is also very well positioned to advance progress on the goals, especially number 6, access to clean water. Water is a frequent cause of mining community tension. Mines need water, often a lot of it, and we often operate in areas of water scarcity. But communities need water too, for essential things like life and their other industries. And where mining companies view water as a commodity, communities quite rightly view it as an essential human right. So I wondered if I could find a project where a mining company had taken a more collaborative or inclusive approach to addressing a water issue. And I found one in Peru. And so I had an opportunity to travel there to talk to water conservation people, to farmers, to people involved in small enterprise, social leaders, and a host of other stakeholders. So my research was in Arequipa, which is in the southwest of the country. The capital city is also called Arequipa, and it's home to about 1 million people. Now, it's also a region that's very important for agricultural exports, and it's a resource-rich region. Just about 30 kilometers outside of the city of Arequipa, high in the Atacama Desert, is the world's largest, 5th largest copper mine, Cerro Verde. And when mining engineers there began planning for a mine expansion, they knew that if they wanted to avoid the kind of conflict that had impacted other projects, they would need not to be in competition with farmers for clean water. So as they planned their project, they looked at the traditional ways that they might source water. But the solution to the problem didn't come from mining engineers, it came from social leaders, who said to the miners, couldn't you use your problem-solving skills and your technical expertise to address a critical social issue, wastewater treatment in the city of Arequipa? Now, at that time, the city was discharging about 95% of its sewage directly into the Rio Chile, which is the principal water source for the entire region. And despite the fact that fecal chloroform levels vastly exceeded safe standards set by the World Health Organization, agricultural land downstream was being irrigated using the water. So, following a period of consultation with a vast array of stakeholders and many interesting and, I suspect, some contentious meetings, it was decided that the company would build, manage, and operate a wastewater treatment plant for the city of Arequipa. And in exchange, they would get a portion of that treated water for use in their mining operations. So what we have today is the wastewater treatment plant that's circled over there on the right, and this graphic is provided by the Water Authority to illustrate what they call the virtuous circle of water. As I say, a portion of the water goes to the mine, but the remainder goes back to the Rio Chile, helping to rehabilitate the river, reduce fecal chloroform counts, and reduce waterborne illness, agricultural outcomes. And these pictures show you the difference in the river after just 5 months of the wastewater treatment plant's operation. And in fact, just last month, for the first time in many years, trout were found in the river. Now, I think it's rare to find an example of a project like this where the benefits accrue equally to society and to the mine. But what my research tells us is that when businesses make decisions with sustainability at the core, they have the opportunity to improve social justice, to reduce social risk, and to deliver a really solid return on the investment. I think that there's a real opportunity with the Sustainable Development Goals, and what my research suggests is there's an opportunity for a new model of engagement, one that places the Sustainable Development Goals at the center of a conversation by stakeholders interested in pursuing collaborative solutions. There's no question, there's still far too many incidences of mine and community conflict, and there's still too many examples of companies that don't conduct themselves in a socially responsible manner. But what my research suggests is if mining companies were to reframe their approach to social responsibility to focus on the Sustainable Development Goals, we might end up with better business and a better world. Thank you.